Ready to start. So.
Ernesto, run.
You have 10 seconds, Ernesto. Okay, our meeting is called to order. 5:30. Jeannie will be excused for the first 15 minutes only. After that, then we'll have to penalize her somehow. So.
Well, it's only because she didn't want to hear Rich again.
Century.
It's cold in here.
So, and Rich said he will lead us in the national anthem tonight. So.
National anthem.
Yeah, that was from like a couple of weeks ago when I messed up and I said we're going to do the national anthem and it was like Dan Johnson.
Can we vote on that?
Yes. Well, I thought Rich would like to.
Holly has a lovely singing voice. Mayor Danes
You
has
will
a
have to do
I have many talents. Singing is not one of them, I promise. I sit next to my kids in church and they're like, oh, don't sing.
So when Helen and I got married, I came home and said something.
Teresa would be good.
The Bible says make a joyful noise. It doesn't say make beautiful music. Just be happy that he's singing. I was like,
Okay, I guess we're picking up where we left off. Rich.
Actually, could I take I'll take 30 seconds at the end if that's okay. I don't have anything unless there is a question. And I'll just give us kind of the way forward.
That sounds great. I think we'll survive with that. Maybe Chief Jensen will not appreciate that, but Chief, you're up next. And thank you all for being here. I know it's so exciting for the budget workshop.
All right.
Okay, let's see here. Teasing that preparing this wasn't that difficult because I just kind of changed some numbers from last year because really the presentation's, for all intents and purposes, very similar. So of the budget this year, there was some increase. Most of that is salary related, both in the police department and the 911 group. Some highlights, wanted to bring attention to just our the issues with ongoing retention and recruitment of officers. Kind of talked about this a little bit last year as well. It's something that's ongoing and ever present in our world, trying to retain and recruit when we have officers leave and dispatchers leave. Just kind of a gee whiz. Yes?
Throughout the country, in many larger cities, police are not just being fired or whatever. They're retiring because of the stress and so forth. Are you seeing people wanting to get out of the police force?
We kind of see it coming. I mean, retirements will, but they're scattered out, and they will happen over the next few years. But I don't see it as you're alluding to, and that is because of the difficulties that people are retiring to leave. I don't see that at all. So
Good.
yeah. Anyway.
EVO, FTO.
Yes, of course. I have a tendency to live in my world of acronyms. The mayor's well aware. EVO is Emergency Vehicle Operations. The Police Academy does not teach that. We have to offer that when we hire somebody, so it's an additional cost to us. And then FTO is field training. Field training is something, as you can see, depending on the individual and their abilities to pick up the learning curve, it can take anywhere from 300 to 400 hours. We've even had some go up into the 500-hour range. It's ultimately important to us to have that person be ready versus cutting them off at 300 hours or 412 hours. We just work with them and get them prepared and get them out on the street on their own. So there's obviously a range there of cost that as we have the individual officers train up to become ready to do the job. A couple of administrative accounts that are large and we deal with every year. We've done some upgrading to the Logan City shooting range this last year. By the way, that is a range that all the agencies in the valley use, and they contribute a slight amount of money to it. It's not very much, but they sort of pay their way, if you will. And plus, it's Logan, and that's what we do, is we share. And so our range is available to them. Anyway, we've put some money into that, and then obviously just some things like furniture and stuff like that that's starting to wear. That's what that account's all about. Ongoing costs, professional technical, just shredding costs. Our lexical policy costs money every year to keep that afloat. Accreditation, postage, training for redaction and grammar needs. Special department supplies, that's our vehicle lighting, our red and blue lights and badges, and our code books and business cards and that kind of stuff, that just kind of ongoing maintenance stuff that we use that account for. The mayor, I appreciate her efforts this year, put an extra $15,000 into our budget. And Amy alluded to the fact that she was worried about police training this year, so maybe I'll jump down that path real quick. So part of this money, as you're well aware, the Utah State Legislature mandated an extra 20 hours of training a year that has to be towards use of force, de-escalation, mental health, those kinds of issues that are plaguing the country and causing the difficulties that we see often. So the Utah State Legislature said, well, all right, 20 hours of that 40-hour training every year now has to be aimed toward those problems. Well, that's fine and dandy. What it ends up actually being is probably more than 40 hours that were mandated, because you still have your maintenance training that you have to do, your vehicle training, your firearm training, all these other things that we do. So we found a program. It's actually a sister to our lexical policy. Sister company. It's called Police One, and Police One sells an opportunity to buy into this program, Police One Academy. And a Police One Academy has 1,500 courses. They're pre-taped, and you can sit down as a crew and do a training module. The training modules are varied, but a lot of them are aimed towards the very issues that we are being mandated to undertake. So buying into this program for $4,000 annually, then it's a cheap way of actually getting officers in front of respected people that put on these trainings in a video format, and they are able to take that training versus the traditional ways of sending officers off to training, down to Salt Lake, down to Layton, down to Orem, whatever. So it's actually probably in the end going to be less expensive, just based on the fact that we'll own this ability. The sergeants or corporals can do short 15-minute, we call them, well, right at the first of the shift gets together, and they can do a quick mini session and just get that training stuff in and get these guys in front of those issues almost weekly.
So this will not then involve any additional personnel hours, because it would be part of their regular workday, so you're not adding additional payroll hours? I'm just trying to figure that out.
If it's at the start of their shift, it's just would still be part of their regular workday, or is this going to be 15 minutes over and above their regular workday?
No, now obviously when you come to work and there's calls on the screen,
Yeah.
we may not be able to do it. So it's not going to be as clean as it sounds because there's moving parts, right? But the idea is to utilize downtime. For instance, a graveyard shift at 3 in the morning. Nothing's going on, potentially. We sit down and we have a training class. So it's available to us, and we can kind of tailor fit it to the needs of the department, the time of day, those kinds of things.
So that's why it's a win-win, because then you don't have the additional pay with the
Right.
officer not in the field.
And it comes from a trusted source. Our actual policy program group is the author of these training videos, so it kind of goes hand in hand, so I like it. Does that kind of help you understand what you were hoping to get from me? Very good. Technology, every year Spillman goes up, unfortunately. I guess that's the world we live in, so there was a slight increase to that maintenance. As you know, there's a high price tag to telephones and data cards for our cars. Special department supplies, high dollar issues, radios. Oh wow, I got a typo there, sorry about that. In-car printers, printer cartridges, and just the different things that we do in regards to that.
And also I minuets earlier, but I didn't point it out.
Did I get another one?
Our police are gonna dance
Minuets
instead of.
and
Yeah, it's funny, you go through this and you think to yourself, yeah, I think I got it, but yeah, I didn't.
It's a word, it's a real word.
It's not the word I wanted, I'm afraid. Part-time employees, we actually just hired 2 more. We're trying to keep that full so that in the event we do have an opening for a full-time position, we can readily take from our part-time ranks to fill those. Now that's the hope. I don't know if it's going to be the reality, we'll see. So again, alluded to 40 hours mandated plus 20 hours for the new legislatively mandated issues. So we do have a budget for training. Special department supplies, again, this year we'll be training and buying a few of the bowler wraps, which is one more thing. We've actually done 5 separate things this last year to improve the opportunity and the options to use less lethal types of use of forces, and so that we can hopefully step aside from being pushed to a notion of using deadly force. Now that's the hope, and so we've done these different things. This bowler wrap, I think the mayor actually came down and saw it. It actually wraps you up and has some little hooks, so basically you can't move your arms or your legs as well as you might have been able to without it. Gives us a moment to capitalize on that mental moment that person has to have, what just happened to me, and hopefully we can take people into custody. So that'll be kind of a fun thing to see if we can get that to be up and running. All right, special department supplies, bulletproof vests, general supplies, cleaning. Vehicle maintenance, again, last year I alluded to this as well. We always use up our vehicle maintenance account. I mean, this last year we actually lost 2 cars because of motor problems. We worked through that. We worked through it inside our budget. We worked through it through finance I think this year we dipped into it once to replace a vehicle out of our fund that we have available to us. So we try to work through that the best we can just inside our budget. Investigations, the same thing, different types of training for the investigators, but still it's a mandate of the 40 hours. And obviously, even though their assignment is different, the mandate from the legislature is the same. Same with our school resource officers, do have some different things there that we do. We try to spruce things up a little bit for the elementary kids as we go in and do our NOVA program. And so we do purchase some things for the NOVA program, magnets and badges and t-shirts and stuff like that for the kids as we go through that program. Our SWAT team has its own budget. It's small, but they go through and they train every year, and they have need to replace. It's interesting, their vests are probably 3 times as expensive as a patrol person's vest because they're more bulky and more capable. This year's training, there's also a lot of media out there that's looking at our no-knock warrant kinds of services. We're also training on what it means, risk versus reward on when we would do a no-knock warrant versus, I've been really proud of those guys becoming inventive on how we move forward as it relates to trying to serve these kinds of warrants as opposed to the traditional, I call it a little bit more of a heavy approach where we actually have to knock it down a door and do those kinds of things. So it still happens, but that's part of their training as well. Grants, this year, our Drug Task Force grant remained the same. The ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children, actually went up a bit, and we're seeing more of that. Our partnership with Dan, who we recognized at the banquet, has also given us some inroads to some new opportunities to investigate these child predators. And so our grant money went up a little bit there, and our liquor law money actually went down a couple of $1,000, but we still are able to do that. And we use that in many different ways, from purchasing equipment to enforcement overtime shifts and education. Rolling stock this year, if we can actually get cars, we ordered cars in August of last year and still haven't received them. It's really an odd thing this year, but we're trying to cross our fingers and hope that they'll be on their way shortly. But this coming year, we intend to replace several patrol vehicles. Again, Amy, you alluded to the fact that our chargers are so tight. We've actually kind of tried to buy some larger vehicles. I'm not going to tell you the partition section is much more comfortable in a Tahoe versus a Charger, but it is a little different configuration. And then an animal control truck, and then we intend this year to try to get 2 more vehicles into the rollover program that is working well for the city right now. When I say rollover, that doesn't mean a car rolling over.
Well, because you did that tactical driving class, you should be rolling over the cars, right?
Yeah,
You got
exactly.
that
We don't want to do
training.
that. Our parking enforcement, we still maintain 4 part-time parking enforcement individuals. We have fees to the company that we pay for software and hardware for our parking enforcement hardware. And we still maintain our Segways and our bikes so that our officers can go out and use those in the summer months. And then, of course, supplies. 911, they do also a lot of training. Maintenance to their vehicle, copier, et cetera, is what the maintenance accounts for. Professional technical, again, Spillman software and support. And then replacement of computers, obviously base stations, cleaning, and uniforms is that rounds out the high points of their budget. Admin fees to the city is accounted for in their budget, as well as other supplies. Wow, that's my budget. I will suggest to you, as I did in years past, I think the city, the mayor, finance are aware of our needs. We discuss them. I have a very capable budget. I'm not whining. We make it through, and every year seem to have a little left over to try to fill the gaps that we have. For instance, buy a new radar, perhaps a new investigative camera, or something that we didn't budget for. Typically, at the end of the budget, we'll have some money left over that we can sort of catch up. And so I feel pretty fortunate that we can do our job, do it well on the budget that's been given us. And once again, I appreciate the fact that there's a little extra this year to do some better things for the department. Questions? Tom?
This may be segue, but where are we winning and where are we losing? Where are we having crimes go down? We don't see the shoot 'em up bank robbery kind of things, but we do see abuse things. So where are we winning and where are we losing?
Well, I think that's probably not easy to answer overall. I think it's a moment in time that we could answer that question. For instance, when the sun comes out and it starts to warm up, we see a lot more crime, a lot more petty crime, stuff like vandalism and theft and even fraud. People are out and about, they're doing their dirty deeds, and crime goes up. So is there domestic violence in our town? Yes, there is. Do we work on that? Do we have officers that are specifically targeting how to better that? Yes, we do. Obviously, we have a drug task force that we manage here and we support, and we try to get ahead of that and all the secondary crimes that are spin-offs from drugs, right? So winning and losing, I would say it's like an amoeba, you know, you push in right here and it has a tendency to flow out around the force. But obviously we make a difference. Our traffic enforcement group is out now. I think that's an important part of what we do, trying to keep people aware and keep our crashes down, which is something that we deal with quite frequently.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I have been tracking a little bit of what other cities are doing related to the mental health issue that you raised. And just as we look forward proactively, there's been lots of talk about incorporating more social workers or those type of level of training within a police department itself or within the city itself. Are you looking at anything like that? I know it's kind of early in this whole kind of national conversation, but are we preparing for something like that? Does that make sense in a city like Logan to reconfigure? I know you've been working with Bear River Mental Health on those units, but that's Bear River Mental Health's staff. Is that the direction that we're going to, do we reimburse them for their time? I'm just curious as to what your vision is, maybe not for this year, but for down the road, and how to manage some of those social work mental health challenges that you guys take care of really well, but that, you know, really are, like you said, are beyond your training, but you answer the calls.
Well, and we do, and the irony is, regardless of whether we know what mental health struggle is going on or not, we're expected to deliver service at 100%. And so it is difficult. I know of situations where an actual mental health physician has been on scene and the person still had an event such that police had to engage. And so, yes, right now we're dealing with Bear River Mental Health, their response group. We've had quite a good response from the officers who have dealt with this new group from Bear River. They find that they are not only willing but capable. When they're called, they respond. We haven't had any difficulties there. It is still a secondary kind of group. In other words, we still have to respond, as you know. We have to make sure it's safe, and then we make that phone call to that group, and they then respond and help us. The help, obviously, in that realm is we get to stop pretending, for lack of a better way of describing it, because we are not mental health professionals. I mean, we do deal with it a lot, yes, but our training is this deep, right? And that's, I mean, we could train forever and not be as good as we want to be. So reaching out and partnering with Bear River, to answer your question, I don't envision in the next few years that we are going to employ and deploy mental health professionals with police officers. I worry about the actual hiring, the cost, and then, of course, how we integrate them and how we keep them safe. There's a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of things to watch unfold, and then maybe we move forward. Does that make sense? So I'm just not ready to react to that just yet. I think I would like to, for now, put more effort into getting better training for our officers, even though I suggest to you that it's this deep, and making sure that we utilize the group that's available to us that are professionals. So that's how I'm envisioning it right now.
So when you call in Bear River Mental Health, their team is paid for by Bear River Mental Health? Okay.
Or grant money, I don't know.
Okay.
So
But it's not a budget.
it's not anything from the city. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So much. coming up, Karen.
Karen gave us toys.
Excuse me, Karen.
No problem, Chief. Thank you.
Good evening. It's good to be with you tonight. My presentation is partly interactive, so you'll notice that I did give you, I'm sorry, I can't talk and do this at the same time. Anyway, I did give you okay. So I did give you some things that we'll talk about during the presentation. So as the chief mentioned today that we were just putting in numbers and not changing our presentation, so I decided to take it upon myself to change my presentation today. So I made it more, I thought, pretty. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. The first thing is I just want to thank you for your support. Without you and the mayor, we wouldn't be doing a new building. We wouldn't have our programs for children, teens, tweens, and adults, and we wouldn't have our current and popular collection of items, and we wouldn't be having a community center with meeting rooms. Actually, we wish our meeting rooms are still closed, but we're hoping to open them up soon. And we wouldn't have a place for patrons to come and enjoy, and a new place for people to come in our new building. So thank you, because it's all up to you. We've been working this year on a strategic plan initiatives to help us, because we connect people to the world. And ours, we have about 6 of them, and they're community center that we provide a place for people to connect and bridge divides. We work on enhancing our collection development to provide current and popular materials. We do access and innovation where we connect patrons to services, resources, and technology. And actually library staff try to pull their director into technology. So some days it works and some days it doesn't. We especially work with teens, tweens, and children just to foster that love of learning and spark curiosity and just get them excited about coming to the library, because that's our future. We connect the past, present, and future by using a connection to our local history and documents, and we do that through our special collections. And then we actually spend a lot of time on our staff, and our staff they provide excellent customer service, and they are trained in the latest technology enhancements, and they help connect our patrons to the world, and we're excited about that. So this last year, we created an updated website. We created several online activities for adults, teens, tweens, and children. We received several grants, and we survived 2020, which we called the year of change, because every day it seemed like I went into the library and said, okay, today we get to do it this way. And so we had to adapt procedures and practices to meet the needs of our patrons, and we had to keep our staff healthy and safe. This is a picture of our first, of what you see when you go to our website. I hope you've looked at it. It really is awesome. We're really enjoying it. Our online activities, we had a virtual Hispanic Heritage Festival, and Ernesto was actually a big part of that, and we really helped that. We did our 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten, which we've been doing, but we helped it become more interactive. We created Take and Make kits, and that is included in your packet. It's the paper clipped part together. The 1,000 books, I'm sorry, I should go back. The 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten is your first paper. It has where kids check off how much they read, and then there's a letter in there, and Ernesto's letter is in Spanish, just for him. And there's a worksheet in there. And then I gave you each a way to make some folded paper boats, because, you know, you should have fun in life. So we create over 1,200 kits per month, or of these weekly kits that we do. If you're wondering what your little animal is, it goes with your 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. Every child that does the 1,000 and fills out his paper gets one of those. And then once they filled out, I can't remember how many, but then they get a book. So it's exciting. The kids love it, and it keeps our toddlers in time. We do an online reader circle and an online story time. So I couldn't take down this picture. We had our Hispanic Heritage Festival, was virtual, but aren't these kids so dang cute? I mean, so this is what it would look like in 2019. This is what it will look like 2021, because we're doing it again this year as a last free-for-all before our library closes and gets demolished. But we're excited to have all of these people come, and we're excited to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Festival in September. This is our 1,000 books before kindergarten. And this is a picture on our wall of a train, and kids that have read put these little stickers all over the train. This is actually our second or maybe even third train that we've done, and kids have filled it up. So it's really exciting. And we had benches there we had to take away during COVID, so now we have these lonely chairs sitting there. These are some of our take and make kits that we've done in the past. Lots of fun things. I think our youth services department has way too much fun. And then this is our story time, online story time. They're doing a circle time now, and they create these every week. And then our adult, especially Joseph here, has created online reader circle where they meet together and discuss books. And so we've been doing as much as we could online during this past year when we could not meet in-house. So we received several grants, which was really nice. We received a digitization grant so we could scan the microfilm of our local newspapers, and we're digitizing our local city council records with USU. So we'll let you know, Teresa. We received a CLEF grant from the Utah State Library. We used it for collection development and technology. We did a Wi-Fi hotspot program from the Utah State Library where we got to purchase 10 Wi-Fi hotspots. And we did the State Library gave us a CARES grant this year where we could purchase things for staff and patrons. So we did masks, we could do Chrome notebooks for staff so we could do online meetings. We purchased, we have so much hand sanitizer, and we purchased disposable gloves. So we just have, we have lots, so we're good. This is our digitization project. We just finally got our microfilm scanner. We're renting this, we're not buying this, but we're going to be scanning all of our newspapers, so you'll be able to search them in-house only. We have copyright issues with our newspapers, but we're going to just search them in-house on a database, and Jeff Compton from IT has helped us create a large computer to store that on.
Great job.
This is an example of the council books that are being scanned. Not these ones, because ours are being scanned right now. They're up at USU and they're being scanned and digitized, so they'll be all available online. USU worked with us to help us to make this happen. These are some fun things we got to purchase with our CLEF grant. These are the children's award books that we got to just go through and discard all of our old worn out copies and buy new copies, so it would be fun for kids to read them. And then Joseph actually picked out a nice collection of nonfiction titles that are up to date and current. This is our new 3D printer. We actually had one before and it has worn out, if you can believe it. So we got a new 3D printer and we're excited to create more things with it. And this is some of our Chromebooks that we were purchased with this year, and then we bought them with a grant last year too. And they circulate a lot. People take them out with our Wi-Fi hotspots. This is a Nintendo Switch. I've never played this game, but anyway, that's the game, and then, or that's the device, and then in that little container, there's little tiny things, and on the last page of your handout, you'll get to have a detailed version of how we check those items out and in, and all the procedures we went through to make them possible for that. And with hardly any advertising, they are so popular. The kids found them and checked them out, so we're excited. Last year we did our...
check out like a book for every video game, maybe even 3 or 4 books before they can check out the next video game.
The better question is, do the parents know they checked out the Nintendo Switch?
We don't judge. And last year, I did my budget presentation before we had put up our new self-check unit and our new security gates. I just wanted to show you how that works. Our security gate is actually so, you could walk on the other side of that brown wooden thing, and if you're walking by with a book too close, it will go off. If you go on the other side, you can see you can actually sneak off on the other side and go through, and it will go off. If you happen to just walk too close to it, it will go off if you have not checked out your books. So it's really high tech. And then patrons are really enjoying our self-check unit. They can go and check out their items themselves. And kids have a lot of fun with it, but moms try to get them to not press the buttons just yet.
Has that been helpful with COVID to be able to keep like social distancing?
It has, and like today we had we've gotten busier, and today we had this line, and I was like, okay, who can use self-check? And then we actually have people that will help you do the self-check, but a lot of patrons are already pros and they don't need my help. And sometimes, like I said, I'm not the greatest with technology, and I'm more of a hindrance than a help.
Like that's self-checkout line at the grocery store.
I finally got to that with some help. How many self-check stations will you have in the library, new library?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. More than 2, because right now we have 2. So we have an old one that we purchased a few years ago, and then we got this one recently. So I'm hoping to have at least 3 or 4, but I'm waiting to get the design of the interior of the library first. But yes.
I've been in some other community libraries, and they have a number, and it's neat because you can do other things.
Yeah, it will help with our staffing, so we're excited about that. Now, the hard part of my budget year is that I'm giving you numbers from 2019 to 2020, so this was a year ago because we end in June 30th of 2020. So these are just the statistics that we had pre-COVID and before we actually, we closed in March of 2020, but we did all these things before. So we actually had a pretty good year before, and then we were closed the last 3 months. So that our numbers weren't too bad after that. So I was okay with that. But today, I'm bringing you the statistics from September 8th when we reopened till yesterday, which I had a staff member working on this very hard today. And anyway, we have experienced numerous staff changes this year, and we've had 2 full-time staff members retire. We've had 3 full-time staff members resign and get other jobs. And we've had more than 1 part-time staff member resign, but just 1 since September through May. And so we've reassigned 4 staff members for different staff assignments. While we were closed especially, and then when we were just open and we haven't been doing as much programming, we haven't needed as much staff. But in the last month or 2, we've had to hire 4 new staff members to keep up. And so we'll be watching it this summer to see how we do. We have 1 full-time and 3 part-time, and plus I just had a staff member, a full-time one, come to me today and said that she's getting married on Friday, and so she'll be quitting next week, so moving to San Diego.
Good grief.
I said, well, that's a good reason.
I didn't know that before this week, huh?
We kind of knew it was coming. She had a long-distance romance. So anyway, but we've handed out over 1,200 of our Take and Make kits per month. I mean, kids love them, parents love them, boys love them, girls love them. They seem to be really popular. We've checked out over 360,000 items. We've checked in over 227,000 items. People usually keep out a certain amount of items at a time, but anyway, we've answered several reference questions, not just over the phone. I should have removed that because now we're working inside the library. We've still provided 1,988 patrons with items using our Pick It Up service. There are still a lot of patrons that like to use that service, and so we'll continue that forever. I don't know, so for a long time. We had patrons requested over almost 60,000 items in our catalog, but we filled over 64,000 requests, and that's because we had requests before September 8th. So sometimes, for things that are being pre-published are not there yet. And we've had over 700,000 visits to our webpage and catalog. So we're pretty excited that we've survived. We've actually survived and enhanced our year. My budget expenditures, there's no numbers here, I just realized, but the employees are blue and they take up a lot of our budget. That's our big part. And then it's our facility, our IT assessment that keeps us going with our technology, and then we have collection development, our databases, programming, and then office and processing supplies and other things that come along. So our budget has stayed still. We're doing okay with our budget. We've been able to enhance it this last year with several grants because the state library was very generous with COVID funds and was giving out grants. In fact, I got another one today for over $19,000 that now I get to figure out how to spend that. So, which is exciting. We're excited about that. And then our new summer reading program starts June 1st. We hope everyone will participate. We have stuff for kids, teens, tweens, and adults. So everyone can participate, and it's Tales and Tales, so it'll be fun.
What are the grown-up prizes?
No.
Joseph, what are the grown-up prizes?
Well,
$50
the
gift
ultimate
card.
one is a drawing for two $50 gift cards.
Two $50 gift cards.
I don't know, are city council members excluded? When we do drawings for gift cards for our employees, we do exclude department heads.
Well,
I won't read.
You can read, you just don't get it.
You're gonna have to read a lot to win.
Our library staff we do our own summer reading program because they don't participate in this one. But when I was first working here and came home from work one day, my son Jason said, "Mom, the library called me and said I won a prize." So I had to tell, that was Ronald Jenkins at the time, and said, "Did you want to give a prize to my son?" Because he got one.
What's your total collection? Let's see, I guess I may have found it.
Our total collection right now is around 165,000 titles.
I just saw it.
Or, no.
Yeah.
Is that what it said? Okay. Anyway, we've been, as you know, we've been discarding a lot of items. We used that project last summer to really weed our collection. And we're looking to move the collection twice. So we want to only move what we really want to move twice. And so we're working on making our collection be good looking.
Lean and lean.
Yeah, and have popular but current material in it, and so, and of course historical. But we are getting rid of man just walked on the moon or something. We had some really old things that we keep finding that we're like, I thought we got rid of all these. So
Where will you be during the construction?
we're still working on that.
To be determined.
To be determined. We're still discussing that. We have some options.
You're gonna be
Yeah.
in the clouds.
I don't know. We're looking at options and hoping to decide soon.
So you'll have checkout services still, like you did.
We'll definitely have our pick it up service. We're going to try to have a little lobby area where we can have a computer with internet. That's what we kept getting asked for the most, and we couldn't figure out how to do that. We want to have people to be able to come in, use the internet, print something like that. We'll still try to provide as much of the collection as possible. It just depends on where we end up, and we're working on it.
I have a question. I've been using Libby since with COVID. Do we pay a fee for that as a library? Do we
We do.
What's interesting is it just takes your book away. Like there's no late fees because your book's just gone.
It's just gone, whether you're done with it or not. That's
Exactly.
Yeah, and you need to check out Hoopla as well. So yes, the library does pay for those. That's in the database fees. And I have increased my collection development in online resources. So that's why we've gotten Hoopla. We have and Friggle, and Hoopla has ebooks, e-audiobooks, and music and videos. Libby also has videos, but they're a little trickier. You have to use the Overdrive app to find them. And then we have Friggle, which is a music database, and we really like that, and that's been getting really good use.
Can you spell that for me?
Friggle is Freegal.
So if I came in, could you explain all that stuff to me?
I have several staff members who are quite well-trained that could explain that to
How
you.
long would it take? Several hours?
No. No, and if you bring in your device, they'll help you set it up.
And how do you use your library card?
Just bring in your library card and your device, and we've been doing it. I had staff members, Debbie today was setting it up with some of our summer residents and just helping them with a 5-minute,
I finally got the Queen's Gambit yesterday.
Look.
It's a 3-month wait
For a book?
for a book on Libby.
On Libby. It is,
So
we
popular.
still, and we try to buy more popular, more copies for the popular titles. We're working on that. We've had, like I said, we've had a lot of staff changes, so some of us are figuring out how to do new things.
It's been, you guys have adapted remarkably well, and I really appreciated the alternatives that were explained to me when I was like, how do I get a book?
Thank you.
Do these resources, digital resources, offer much in Spanish or?
I believe they do. We should really investigate it further. I believe Libby has a small collection of Spanish, but I haven't looked into Hoopla. And then a language resource we have that was very popular is Mango, and so our patrons use that a lot. So.
Karen, do you have an extra packet?
I do. Did I not give you one, Jean?
Well, I wasn't here when you started.
I know, but I thought I gave you.
Is that mine?
I shared with you. So.
Oh, I'll give you yours. I wondered why I had an extra one. Okay. I will do
He
that.
does have grandchildren,
Yeah, I know.
I know.
I want the 1,000 book.
Well, and you need to fold your boat, so.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm keeping the boat. You can have my 1,000 books before kindergarten, because
So-
I think I've passed that.
This
I
So we're
Under 1,000 books.
The final thing is I'm hoping to fill in this tomorrow soon. We're going to have another design meeting this week, and so we're hoping to fill in that tomorrow picture soon with what it's gonna look like. So thank you so much. Any other questions? It's date and time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have your keys here, Chief.
I know, that's the key.
And Chief Hannick.
She's so enthusiastic. She's so.
Great attitude.
You've heard so much from me that I'm going to be as brief as possible. So I'm just going
hearing from you, come on.
Rich doesn't though. He holds me to a high standard.
Good enough. Rich is good enough.
Thank you.
I'm just going to cover a couple brief things about 2020 in review, just some highlights here really quick. Our COVID-19 clinic that we had open for several months, we gave right around 9,800 doses by our fire department personnel. So we were happy to be able to do that program, and it was a success. Next, obviously, SIMS was dissolved this last year in a creation of EMS fund, which changed some things, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. This past year, we also got an EMS grant from the Bureau of EMS to staff our part-time transfer ambulance, which has been a really successful thing to keep our 911 units available in the city, more frequent, as well as has been a great program for us to hire from. We've hired our last 5 full-time people from our part-time staff, and so we just filled our last 2 positions, full-time positions, and now we're trying to refill our part-time staff again. So obviously our consolidation with North Logan happened this past year, where we have our 4 stations staffed full-time, which has been a huge boost to our response and our ability to be able to cover the city. Our community wildland preparedness plan, which is really a community plan, it's really a city plan. It's not just the fire department. We actually finally got that completed this year. We had a bay addition at 72 that was completed, that was funded through our wildland program. We had emergency generators that were purchased for 71 and 72 that are getting finally put in right now. We've had difficulty getting an electrician to get those put in. We recently passed our airport inspection. I know that probably doesn't sound very exciting, but there's a lot of work that goes into us being able to provide services. The FAA has a high standard, and so it's an accomplishment for our guys to be able to get that completed. We're going to take delivery of our 3 new engines that we got through the DEQ grant. We're doing our final inspection trip this next week, or 2 weeks from now. So we're hoping they'll be delivered by right before the first of the, or the end of the budget year, before the first of the next budget year. We have another ambulance scheduled to come in at that same time frame. And then we're going to be graduating 6 paramedics from paramedic school that went to B-Tech. So those are some of the highlights for the year. Just to give you a little kind of snapshot of our call volume this year, we had 5,252 incidents, a slight downturn from last year for 2 reasons. One, with the separation from the county, we no longer respond into the county, and so those numbers are down as far as EMS calls because of that 6 months of not going out into the county as we did before. The other one was COVID. Our percentage of EMS calls were down 25% last April. So, we did catch up by the end of the year for the most part, but, it was a little downturn. The interesting thing was our fire-related calls were up, as you can see, almost 350 for the year, which is just an interesting stat. So 9,567 responses for our department just kind of give you a picture of how active we are. As we talk about all the time, our funding sources outside of the city general fund are lengthy to some extent. We do medical standbys for special events, and we usually do around 30,000 this last year with COVID. Obviously, that was significantly less. Our airport standbys, because there was no football games, that was down as well. Our wildland deployments on the flip side was up. We brought in a little over 150,000 this year, and we expect that that's probably going to be significantly more this coming season with the drought that we're experiencing. Our contract for services, all those contracts are up. Providence is now up to their that contract and negotiated price from several years ago. River Heights is currently under negotiations, but projected to triple. And then College and Youngward and Logan Canyon, we get a significant more amount of money from the county to be able to provide that. And then North Logan contract is up about 57,000, I believe. Our EMS fund is new because of that. We're projecting to bring in roughly 3 to 3.2 million for this next fiscal year. And then our EMS grants, we received 45,000, which obviously funded our part-time program, and we have applied for over 200,000 this year. There's some extra funding that we are able to apply for. Some of that is leftover COVID funds that have been redistributed to the EMS Bureau. Our fire department budgets, we have 5 basically budgets: admin, suppression, prevention, and training and hazmat, which are all relatively unchanged, other than the amount that Chief Jensen talked about, and that money is going to increase our uniform allowance for our employees. That hasn't been raised in maybe a decade and a half, and prices have obviously gone up, so that's going to help with that. Obviously, as you can see, the increase for North Logan is about 57,000. And then our 590 account is our ambulance fund. It's the new enterprise fund. And so we have some additional fees in there. These are administrative fees that were paid through SIMS that are now our responsibility. Obviously, we'll get the revenue to be able to compensate for that, or at least we're hoping to soon. But we do have some funds that come that, we had a pretty good significant fund balance with SIMS that we're going to get a good share of that money in July. But these are some of the changes. If you look at the breakdown, this is kind of, it's in the budget, but this is the exact amounts and specifically where those fees, but this includes all of them, but those additional ones are more highlighted and italicized. And then we have, to keep up with our fleet, we have 8 ambulances that we circulate, 4 used for 911 and 4 used for interfacility transfers. If we don't replace one every year, then we're beyond 8 years. 8 years is a long time to keep an ambulance in service, and so that amount helps us keep our fleet in place. As far as capital and rolling stock, we have a brush truck replacement plus some of our rollovers that I think we have 4 vehicles that are in the annual rollover program that Chief Jensen uses with the PD. And then we're hoping to get, some more information on the Station 70 rebuild. I'll hopefully have some updates for you next week. Questions?
I have a couple.
Sure.
Medical director,
Yes.
do we pay for a person?
Yes.
Wasn't very much money.
Well, they're part-time. They're not a full-time. We hire a medical, a doctor. We've always had one that's really kind of what we call medical control. They help us with protocol development for our standards for protocol. They also provide training for us. So we pay them an administrative fee, and then they come and teach, and we pay them by the hour.
Oh, okay.
So, that's not a lot, but it is a lot in the sense of, he does a lot of video training for us, and then comes and does hands-on training every quarter, and then he signs off on our protocol. So we operate, even though we have a license, we have a certification to the state to operate, we can't function without operating under someone's license. So the fact that we use Schedule II narcotic drugs and a lot of other medications, he's the one that orders those. We're functioning under his license. So if we do something inappropriate or outside the bounds, it's really his license that's on the line. So it is a small amount, but it's more than what it used to be. And we have a more actively engaged medical director now. He's a young doctor that's contracted with Cache Valley Hospital, and he's been with us for a couple years and has done a great job. So it's a very important part. We have to have one, and it's an important part of our education and training, and just keeping our guys, skilled. So he's part of that as well.
Okay. And then my other question was, I understood that the county has hired EMTs and all kinds of people like that. Has that affected your staff at all?
No. They have, obviously they kind of fill on that. SIMS was kind of broken up into 3 completely different license systems. We are covering pretty much everything we did prior to within SIMS. And then the county was broken up into the north and south zones. Mm-hmm. Smithfield kind of operated or kind of managed both of them, where now they only do the north end, and then the county now does the south end through the fire department. So they have hired EMTs and paramedics. They are using, on-call and part-time people quite a bit to manage that. I think they're doing well. It's obviously different for them, but I think they're being successful. We do have a mutual aid and automatic aid response to support them, as well as they support us. We haven't really had to support them at this point, which is a success.
But it has not affected your staff in terms of, you haven't had people leave?
Well, I did have one that left and went to the county because they were willing to pay him more money, which was unfortunate, but that we only had one that went to the county. So we do have some of our people that work part-time for them, and then we've lost some of our part-time staff to them, to their full-time positions. So
is that because of what we pay, or just because?
A combination of both to some extent. I think that, our part-time program obviously is, funded through the grant, so we're limited on what we can pay. And we just use those funds till they run out, and so we staff that unit. It's not critical because it's functions just to take the burden of the interfacilities off the normal crews. And so when we can fill it, we do, and we can't, we don't. So to answer your question, has it affected us? Minimally.
Okay, and last, I was under the impression that you were gonna get the money from Sims in January.
Well, there was 3 different tiers of when we got the money.
Okay,
We were supposed to get, that was supposed to take the balance in January and take half of it and then split it in 2. I'm not sure that exactly happened because what they anticipated the balance would be was significantly higher, but they only gave us that balance. Now, in July, they're supposed to take the 30%, the rest of it minus the just 20. They're supposed to hold on to 20, which I think is high. I think it should be more like 10, but they're supposed to give us the other half, which will be probably a bigger amount than we got in January, in July. And then they hold the final small percentage in case there's refunds, which sometimes happens. And then the following July, we'll get the entirety of the rest of the balance.
okay.
I think they've held on to more of the money than but it is part of the agreement, so we'll just make sure that in July they give us the share that they're supposed to, and then we'll wait till the following July to get the balance.
And last but not least, now that you have this new fund, who is managing that fund and all the accounting for that?
Finance and I'm watching it like a hawk. So
Well, no, I meant, because there was a whole person that
Yeah,
just
the billing,
did that.
what billing service, is that your question?
So
What
we
billing
use
service?
a new billing service. We actually contract with Gold Cross to do our ambulance billing. Their system is a lot more transparent, so I can see, day to day. I have ability to see things I wasn't able to see in the past. So we're able to watch that really closely. We feel like that they're going to do a good job for us.
Well,
And
you felt there was some question about the single source or the billing agency only did one client, right?
yeah, well, the billing client we had, they're still doing it for the county and Smithfield. But the company we went with does it for 27 fire departments throughout the state. They're the largest biller in the state of Utah. So we feel really comfortable with their processes. We feel like there's a lot more checks and balances, which I know Rich is, thankful for. There was some things that were, especially when you're dealing with Medicaid and Medicare accounts, that responsibility is, they audit, and Ogden could give you a really bad example of how they had to pay a lot of money in arrears because of their because it can be really challenging. So Gold Cross gives an annual audit. They don't have to, but they do, which we like because we have learned some things already that we weren't doing that we are now doing that make us more compliant with the standard. So it was a good move for us.
I love the way you choose those words. They're very carefully chosen. So Rich, does it require more staff on your part? You're okay? I mean,
We're fine.
This
We're
is a
fine.
pretty big addition.
It is, and it's one more fund, but it's not that much. We're okay.
All right,
We're able to do it.
okay,
And the biller does the big work. They
okay.
do the detailed work. We just kind of are behind the scenes, and we pay them for that, obviously, but we're comfortable with them. There's some things that I want, or I hope that Gold Cross will do in the future that make me feel more comfortable. It's just, we're in good company now, whereas before we were the only client of a firm, and I think they did a good job for the time, but I feel like we're in good company. Doesn't mean it's perfect, doesn't mean we won't have problems. We're just in good company if we do have problems with 26 other cities.
Okay, got it.
So I have a question.
Sure.
A lot of the department proposed budgets and then the mayor's proposed budgets, there were discrepancies in amounts, but yours stuck out because
the department request was 1.75 million and the mayor's proposed is 1.43. So that seems to be a bigger discrepancy than some of the, I'm on page 126, the full-time earnings for EMS. Just seems like it's a bigger difference. I didn't know if that's because it's new and so it was an estimate that was estimated down or.
Yeah, that's all. Next year it'll be closer. I think we had to guess what would go where, and then we fine-tuned it at the mayor's level for the exact employees and how much that would cost. So guesstimate, it was rounded out a little bit better later on.
Okay.
Well, figure it out, say, yes, and if it was rounded.
Well, and there's some projections, for example.
Oh, and projections.
Ambulance billing, Medicare cost share, those are things that we really don't know exactly what they're gonna be. And they do fluctuate based on our volume of activity and how much we collect. And so they're a little volatile in that sense of it's hard to predict. And so I think that Rich has looked at it to say, make sure we're not, outside the bounds of legality by going over budget. So I know he's provided a little bit, so we're gonna be whole there. Because it was hard. 6 months isn't enough time. And when we were preparing the budget, we had 2 months. We were February, we were barely in 2 months to predict what that's gonna be.
Right.
We expect changes. We expect to come back to council more than likely. If we don't, it'll be a surprise.
It just seemed a big chunk of change though compared to some of the other departments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question.
Yes.
The
sorry.
software listed 34,000, what are we talking about?
So our EMS reporting software is, that's a kind of legal component where we document all of our medical documentation for incidents. And so that's a software that we have to provide. And so that's what that is. It's really, that integration into Spillman, the reporting software. It's all the software programs that we need for EMS to do our job. It's also fire. We also have, some portions with Spillman, portions of the CAD that we have to pay for. Spillman Touch. It's all the software that kind of operates our EMS services, EMS and fire services.
Is it an umbrella license or is it per user?
It's an umbrella. Most of them are umbrella. We usually don't use user licenses because they're too costly. But we try to get the ones that are going to provide the best service to us and don't have necessarily user numbers on them. But some of those are part of the 911 center, so we're paying the 911 center's software that they have. We did apply for, just so you're aware, we applied for a assistance to firefighter grant for nearly $1 million this year to upgrade our dispatch software for fire and EMS so that we can kind of speed up our responses and get rid of the two-tone paging, which is really archaic. So we're hoping that this summer we'll hear whether we got that grant or not. That would be great if we did.
So would you be part of the upgrade that they're doing statewide for emergency personnel?
For the radio system,
Yeah.
for UCA, yes. That system's getting upgraded. The 911 center's been purchasing new radios that would function within those, and we're starting to get some of those radios. Yeah, so all of our handhelds and all our mobile radios in our units all have to be upgraded. So I know 911's had that fund for several years to be able to upgrade those. Yeah, that will obviously impact us when it gets implemented, because going from an analog to a digital, which we did that in Las Vegas when I was there, it's a different system.
Okay, all right.
I may not understand this very well, but you've got a line of bad debt that shows 3.6 million.
Yes.
Yes.
So, well, he can explain it.
I can explain it, but he can do it probably better.
The accounting side of it is why we have to reflect it that way. So what we do is we reflect the total revenue, and then total revenue billed, and then we reflect all discounts, actual write-offs, and uncollectibles, all as bad debt.
when we bill for EMS, we collect, we're projecting to collect 47% of total billed.
Medicare pays SWAT
Yeah.
on an ambulance bill.
When you're talking
They pay
med.
like half of what you bill. They adjust their
And that's exactly right. So there's two things. Medicaid pays roughly, if we build a $5,000 bill for interfacility transfer to primary children's, for example, we're going to collect $505. That's it. They won't pay for any medical supplies, any mileage. So it's very limited. If it's Medicare, that's what we do the cost share. Because without it, we would get $250 to $300, where now we almost get $1,000. So it's kind of like one of those, the more volume you do, the better the Medicaid cost share is, but you don't have an option. You have to do the Medicaid cost share, whether you participate in it or not. It's kind of one of those deals but it does help us collect more per transport. And so on average, with the non-collectibles and the uninsured, the Medicaid, Medicare, and VA that don't pay any supplies, that's, what we talked about. Sometimes you have to charge more for supplies in general, just to make sure you can afford to stay in business.
Just so council is aware, this is the way I want to budget for it, with the total budget and then kind of reducing the budget. When I do this, the software barks at me a little bit, but it allows it to go through. So there is a possibility that I'm going to have to net these two numbers. I don't want to. I like seeing the gross amounts in both. It helps us track it better and know what's happening. But just so you're aware, I appreciate you pointing that out, because there's a possibility I may have to net those ultimately. Doesn't
Take away your award.
Yes.
I'm not gonna go in the ambulance business.
Yes.
I would say, I think it's just like when you get your explanation of benefits for any bill you go to a doctor or a hospital for, you see what is billed and you see what the insurance company is allowed and you see what the write-off is, and then you see what your responsibility is. And so there's also this chunk of fees that are gonna be the responsibility of the person who is transported, and those also often have a lot of bad debt because they have a $5,000 deductible and our bill hits first, then we don't get paid anything because the $5,000 is so sometimes being first in is not always the best when it comes to medical billing.
And that's another reason why our billing company is, we're hopelessly more successful, because they know about timing, right? They even have some softwares that help them do timing on when to bill and when not to bill, so they capture more dollars. We're also using that convenient payments, which is available on the website, that allows people to pay via credit card and stagger it over time period, so that it would only draw so much per month. Those are all just avenues and resources that we kind of got into that we didn't normally do in the past. Hopefully will help us, have a better collection rate.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
See, we have more to talk to you about than you thought.
Isa, you're up.
That was just a warm-up.
That's a warm-up for Lisa.
You said an enthusiastic team, look at this.
You've got your team with you.
I have the SWAT team, solid waste and wastewater. It's up.
Are you gonna present for Kirk instead? That'd be
No,
more engaging.
That's something I don't want to do. Very true. So tonight with me is Tyler Richardson, who is our operations manager, and Madeline, who is also our designated wastewater treatment manager, effective July 1st. They will also be speaking with you, and I'll just talk to you briefly, so they will take over the rest of it.
Lisa, we like to hear from you. Come on.
I will do a few
Okay.
things. So Tyler will probably present to you in the solid waste section, and Madeline will also talk to you about the 520 fund. But some general observations here that I'll give you about budget and revenues, significant projects that are going on in the year 2022. The new compost facility that we budgeted about 5.2 million. Because of the limited space we have, as we talked about last council meeting, we will not spend all of that, but that's what we had initially in the budget, and it will remain that way, and next year we'll carry over. Growth is a challenge to us, as well as the composting facility that we need to speed up and finish it in the year. With regard to the wastewater section, again, new treatment plant construction is status. Madeline will talk to you about that. It's in progress, and on time, we'll probably finish it on time and on budget.
That's amazing. Salt Lake City is not in this particular position.
I think our timing was right. We've done this, even though we thought we was late, but given the fact that what is happening in the construction business now, I think we timed this project right. So there are some one-time purchases, the treatment plant to come online. Madeline will again talk to you about those. Then after that, the budget will go down a little bit. It will just be operating expenses from there on. So this is the 520 budget, revenues and operating budget. Every year, sometimes we borrow money from our reservists. You can see that this year, the reason why we have $21 million is because we're borrowing it from the reservists. But generally, our revenue is about 18 million. This is our current, a glimpse of what other cities are charging garbage fees and what we charge. The blue arrow you see here is Logan. It's about $13.95 the average, and Logan is $14.15. So we're right within the average, but it's hard to tell what these cities include their services. Most of them, the services provided by private collectors. And what they do is they just pick up the can, deliver it to the transfer station or the landfill, and they're done. We do a lot more than that. We engage with the public, recycling, composting, green waste we accept for free, household hazardous waste. All of those activities we provide is included in our fee. But in other cities where the service is provided by garbage collector, in this case, Allied Waste or Waste Management or other companies, all they do is just pick up the can, and if it's not in time, outside they charge you more. So it's very difficult to compare. But I'll show you, however, the next one. These are the cities that haul themselves. That includes Brigham City, $21. And again, that $21 includes recycling and landfill fee they pay. Draper and Bountiful, there are anomalies. They both, we don't know exactly why they are so low, but we do know that they have landfills that somewhat subsidizes their fees. But as you can see, all the other cities, Ogden, Provo, Salt Lake, and the average is $18. So we're happy that our fees are below these other cities.
So do some of the lower fee cities not comprehensively include all the costs?
Yes.
So they're running like they're.
So Provo, with what we know, and again, I know limited information, but they own their own landfill. They are not part of the Wasatch integrated program, but they charge their commercial significantly when they come to the landfill. So the landfill fee subsidizes it. The same is true also at Draper.
Okay.
They are part of the Transjordan landfill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the commercial accounts. We see a dip commercial accounts, and that is due to COVID last year from 2,898 to 2,600 accounts. These are the residential, and you can see that every year we've been seeing about 1,000 new accounts, but last year it's about 3,000 new accounts. So that's growth. So if you really want to know the growth, just ask the garbage man. We can tell you.
Is this specifically for Logan City, or is this county?
The whole county. Yeah, the whole county.
So in a multifamily development, is each
Unit is, yes,
in a
household.
One household.
Yes, and if you see that 2014, that's when we started changing that, counting it as a residential unit. That's the jump. You will see that from 2014, 2015. So green waste is also equally going up. We've seen about 1,400 new accounts in green waste. Even though it is optional, people are taking that. As they sign for their garbage and recycling, they are also asking for green waste, as long as they're in the metropolitan areas. But if they're in the county, generally they don't. And we don't provide that service because we don't want to drive 5 miles just to pick up a can. The 520 fund, again, the same thing what I showed you earlier about the 570. This year, our budget is about 11,400,000. The net revenue of that service is about 10,600,000 or 10,800,000. The rest of it is coming a little bit from reserves as well. And Madeline will explain to you where these $10 million is going to be spent. Before that, our budget used to be about 2 million, 3 million, something like that, or less. But now we're jumping it, and she will explain to us why that is the case. But I'll just hand over to Tyler. Come on.
Good evening, Council. If you included some composting siting stuff with your budget hearings, you'd get a lot more public participation.
If we had what?
Do some compost siting
Oh.
with your budget hearing, you'd have a lot more people here. So I'm going to touch on some of the issues that involve solid waste. He's just shown you some of the financial numbers. I'm going to address more of the challenges that the environmental department will be tackling and addressing in the coming year. So this first graph shows, it's a 10-year trend of our municipal solid waste. So this is household waste, commercial waste. Starting in 2018, this has been landfilled at the North Valley landfill.
Is this
tons?
Tons.
That's tons, yes.
Okay.
So if you focus on the last 3 years there, you can see the growth that's occurred here in the valley. So we've gone from about 81,700 tons to over 100,000. So not only is that tons landfilled, that's tons transported and collected.
What can you attribute that to?
We
saw like more people, but it's just like...
So growth and also recycling a little bit.
Yeah.
Recycling.
Recycling has gone down, then the economy is still up. So...
It's just lost. Yeah.
So we've noticed a significant increase in cardboard, and that'd be the Amazon effect that's been in the solid waste industry. Just a lot more cardboard in the waste stream. So
there was a lot of things that we could no longer recycle. We could no longer do 2, 4, 5.
yes, and so recycling's gone down, and that ends up in the landfill. But just with those increases, we have not asked for any new additional employees, but 2018 we were doing about 300 tons a day. Now we're up to about 350 tons a day. We're getting close to the point where we'll be requesting additional employees for help, but not this year. This next chart is probably the most pressing need with the solid waste. This is construction and demolition waste. This is waste that is currently still landfilled in the Logan landfill. So at this current rate, 2, maybe 3 years max is the available space at the Logan landfill before we have to do something with C&D. So we're currently working with the Solid Waste Advisory Board to come up with a plan for solid C&D management. So currently that looks like to transport large demolition projects directly to North Valley and bulk and transport smaller loads. That would include a new transfer station to handle this, additional employees, additional trucks. But
Have you had any success with your potential additional transfer location?
no, we haven't furthered that.
Okay.
So, no, we're still in the works. We've got a meeting with the Solid Waste Advisory Board coming in June. We're gonna try to further that along.
Well, I know they were kind of wanting to know how much it was gonna cost.
Yes, and we've got that. Did Lance get back with you on that quote?
Yes, I have some estimate, and I'm expecting to get a report from Cash Landmark that will give me what it takes to build equivalent building.
Okay. So what, do you know, any idea what percentage of this comes from the university versus from residential customers in the?
So C&D waste is pretty much all development.
I mean, they took down that big tower last year.
So the USU that
Does that come to our landfill or do they?
yes, that did. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the day they tore down that tower, we were pushing 1,300 tons a day. So C&D is widely variable. That's why it's difficult to say, let's just build a transfer station. Because in the middle of winter, I'm going to get 25 tons, and it's not worth doing anything with. Then USU tears down their dormitory, and it's 1,300 tons. There's no.
Turn down another one.
Or we tear down a school.
Or a school.
So-
Yes, but USU makes it a big difference.
In the library.
Oh,
And the
we're gonna have
library.
more, we're gonna have the library in there.
We're contributing.
So just hurry is my request. So 2 to 3 years, then we get to transport those costs as well.
Well, we're gonna do it before 2 or 3 years, right?
So that's it. We begin the closure of the landfill. So that yellow on the northwest, that, if you've noticed, has all been covered. We're completing there the southwest, that blue corner. We'll get probably about to, does this have a pointer? About somewhere in here with the soil from the wastewater treatment plant. Then we'll be working with the state to get some of our restricted funds back from the closure. Here is our current look there. So it has greened up nicely for the first year. So this will continue on to the point here, and we might have a little more with the wastewater treatment. Then the future closure will wrap around the south, here on the east, and the last bit of space we have in the landfill is right here up on top. So any questions on solid waste? I will turn this over to Madeline for wastewater questions.
Mayor, with regard to that, has there been any further thought on capture of methane?
ASA looked into that. I mean, it just, again, given the soils in Utah, and other landfills with similar soil, it just doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, we looked at doing some, piping. Go ahead and address that.
How the landfill is built is a factor in methane gas generation. Generally, you build a cell, you close, and recover gas from that cell. So the first 2-3 years, it is still decomposing. Generally, after 3 years is when you will see gas activities coming out of the landfill. And if you close within 5 years that cell, complete, close it, then you will recover gas from that area. This particular landfill is 85 acres. It was all landfilled at the same time because it was an open dump. There is no liner at the bottom. And then you have waste that is a year old here. Next to it is one that is 20, 30 years old. So it's very difficult to collect the gas from this landfill. And for that reason, everywhere you sample, the sample always falls below the expected level is to warrant for a gas extraction. For that reason, it's not, at this point in time, economical for us to engage and spend millions of dollars to collect the gas, and the state is not requiring us. So that's where we are with this landfill. We think North Valley landfill will be a little bit different, and we'll see what happens on that landfill. Moisture content is also another factor. Utah is generally a dry state, so what we receive, the content of moisture in the solid waste, as well as the content after its landfill, and rain, moisture, other things, take into consideration, that is what yields methane gas. So Utah is generally a dry state. For that reason, gas recovery is less than other states, but then again, we have that particular factor on this landfill. Come on.
All right, so this is an overview for the Logan Regional Water Reclamation Facility. So water reclamation, just so you know, is the new fancy, nicer sounding term for water treatment. So if nothing else, we'll be on trend with our name for the new facility. This picture in the background there was taken by a guy from our construction management company, and he had the benefit of a good angle to get the nice reflection of the sky and the water, making it look really blue and
really nice
pretty.
Day.
Yes. So first off, I have a construction update for you. So as of the end of April, April 30th, the construction is 84.7% complete. Substantial completion of the project, meaning when we'll have all the construction done, all the landscaping, all the asphalt, that's expected for next summer. The date they have on there right now is July 1st of 2022. And then final completion when our management company hands us over the keys and they walk away and we're all in charge, is the end of September of next year. So up until that time, we'll be working with the management company to start up the treatment plant and run it.
So far away when we started. Now it sounds like it's tomorrow.
And as you can see, this picture didn't quite have the benefit of the good angle, so the water looks a little green there. But as of right now, we are on budget for the project. So.
And by 84.7% complete, that means we've spent more than 84.7% of the money, right? Or have we?
No.
That's based off the
Roughly
budget.
the same.
I think we have about 30 million left, 40 million, so.
That's a dollar value of construction.
Yes.
It hasn't been paid yet, though.
Yeah, well.
Probably a month or two behind.
Yes, we are.
You won an award?
They paying our bills?
They haven't submitted payment
okay.
for those yet.
We're working on March right now, so yeah, we're a little behind. So this is the budget overview. So as you can see down here in the corner, that's the overall budget of about $11.4 million. So this pie chart is just to give you an indication of where the majority of that money is going. Obviously, the biggest portion, nearly half, will be going towards paying back our loan that funded the project, the state revolve fund. We also have this other operation and maintenance, or O&M, category. This includes a lot of different things, none of which really stand out on their own as a big category, such as biosolids handling fees. We're going to have a preventative maintenance software program. Just other general maintenance budget items are in that category. One of the very big categories is power and other utilities. Really, mainly it's just power. in this category, so that's about 10% of the budget. We also, for fiscal year 2022, we're going to have some one-time fees. This includes lab equipment, just operator equipment. The majority of those one-time fees are actually for chemical costs. We're going to be using magnetite, which is a chemical in our treatment process. And in order to start up the system, we have to fill the system with magnetite. So there's that one-time cost of that. Then we have personnel, which is about 11%, and then the chemicals, which will always be adding to the system. So the main categories I want to highlight a little bit more. First, I'll talk about our personnel, the chemicals, and then the power costs. So this is a diagram showing how we intend to operate the new facility. So we'll have 24-hour monitoring of the treatment plant. That's through our SCADA system, which is basically you have your mobile devices, which give you access to the plant data and alarms for all of your equipment throughout the treatment plant. So at any given time, you can pull out your phone or your iPad, what have you, and basically get an overview of how the treatment plant is doing.
I'm guessing this requires multiple factor authentication to
Yes.
access.
Yes. Yeah. Only all our operators, everyone on this system will have to have an account, sign in, all that. Yes. The treatment plant will be staffed during the day hours of Monday through Saturday. We'll have our operators working 4 10-hour days. At any given time, we'd like to have at least 3 operators on site. One of them would be operating the biomag process, which is that magnetite chemical that I talked about. It's a very involved process. We'd also want 1 operator full-time on our dewatering process. That person's going to be driving the truck back and forth with the biosolids to our compost facility. And then we'll also have another person which kind of covers the maintenance for everything else. And that person will also be doing sampling, which tells us just the overall health of the treatment plant and what we need to be doing. In addition to that operator, we'll also have a lab tech. That lab tech initially will be in charge of training the operators on how to properly do wastewater sampling, just for day to day. And then eventually the lab tech is going to help us become certified so that our lab that we have at the facility will be able to use those numbers and report them directly to the state, because currently we have to take our samples and run them through a third-party certified lab, which are in Salt Lake. And so being certified ourselves cuts out that drive time and also the expense of paying someone else to do that monitoring. We'll also have a part-time secretary and then the manager. The manager will be certified, and so all process decisions will have to go through the manager for the treatment plant. During the hours when we don't have staff at the treatment plant, so the evening hours, Monday through Saturday, and then also on Sunday, we'll always have 1 operator on call. So they'll get alarms through that SCADA app if anything is going wrong with the plant, and then if needed, they can go in and deal with the issue.
So they'll all be cross-trained?
Yes, yeah, initially we'll have people kind of try to be experts in areas because it will be a lot to take in, but eventually they'll all train each other, and we want everyone to know everything. So if people take time off, then we're covered.
And if something goes wrong and nobody's there, it's an automated alarm.
Yes, yeah, they'll get an alarm and they'll have to look at it and acknowledge it and do something about it. Otherwise, it will keep waking other people up. then I'll have to get up and go. So hopefully they acknowledge it. So with that operation plan, looking at the positions we'll need. So currently we have 5 approved positions in the 520 budget. One of those is Mark Nelson, who's our senior construction engineer. He's going to be retiring this coming January.
Nice, I
Thank you. So we're going to be losing him. So technically we only have 4 approved positions. We'll need to add 4 full-time employees and then also add a part-time for the secretary. These pay grades were the pay grades that we discussed for the different positions with HR. And then where people fall kind of depends on the experience people have and also whether or not they can get certified as wastewater operators at different levels of treatment. The next topic is the chemical procurement. So there are 3 main chemicals that we will be using in our treatment process: magnetite, alum, and polymer. The dark red numbers are the estimated numbers, the yearly cost of each of these chemicals. The numbers below are the estimated cost of each chemical for fiscal year 2022. They're a little bit lower because we're going to be starting the treatment plant partway through the year, and just how we use the chemicals will be a little bit different for that year. So in the future, those chemical costs will be higher than what they are in 2022, but we also won't have the big one-time initial cost as well of filling the system. So there's that. And then lastly, we have the big power usage costs. So it's estimated that we'll have a similar power usage to the Logan Regional Hospital. And in addition to the power that we're already using for the lagoons, the aerators, the headworks there, it's estimated that we'll have an additional cost of $900,000 per year for power. So that will be quite a big chunk of where we're spending our money.
What is the current power usage with our old system?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think
That is roughly 250 in that area. So,
I remember a long time ago, we talked about doing some energy generation from heat and the process that the sewage treatment plant would be.
Recovering heat from the wastewater as it comes into the treatment plant. It is possible, but again, I don't know if we want to invest into that, but if the citizens are interested, it will be a different issue. The difference is very small. The one that I would be more interested is in the event we finish the use of the lagoons, transferring them to a solar farm. That will be ideal, and it will reduce quite a bit our cost. So that will be an investment. If we choose so, that will be probably the best one. We have 460 acres there.
Okay.
Well, that's the end. Are there any other questions?
Well, it's nice that we're buying the power from ourselves. That makes it just a little better.
Yes. I am concerned about this fund. You can see in your budget that we are borrowing from reserves, which I hope we have enough to actually complete the project, get everything started, and be ready to go, that we still have reserves. That would be great. But I am concerned about this operating budget as well. Now, we knew that going in. We had a series of 5 or 6 10% rate increases, and then there was going to be a reconciliation at the end. we won't really know until we've operated it a year or so, and that's a really scary place to be because I don't know where our revenues or where our reserves are going to be. I think we're going to be okay, but there are a lot of moving parts to figure out where we're at. So this budget does reflect an annual budget. However, those budgets are going to change as we kind of learn how much stuff this is going to consume and how much utilities it's actually going to use. So there are a lot of moving parts, and I am very, very concerned about where we're going to end up, whether we're going to have enough money left in this fund, whether we're going to be able to get by. Now, the good news is we're in a good spot as a city. So we're going to get by, but it's going to be a rocky landing.
If it's a more rocky landing than you anticipate, what are the alternatives?
Well, like I said, the city is in a really good place.
Well, I know.
We have adequate reserves.
The sewage treatment plant is serving more than just us.
Right. It would be rate increases, and there would be interest charges as this fund borrows from other funds in order to get by. We would not let it impinge upon the city of Logan and our plans going forward. There'd be a cost associated with everything. However, and it would be the reasonable cost that we're otherwise earning in the market. But the good news is we're positioned well as a city. The bad news is this is going to be a little bit of a rocky landing as we don't know all the variables. However, I'm pretty pessimistic in my projections.
What?
I know.
Really?
I know.
That's why you got the award.
We'll still not be aware of that, so.
It's an art. I'm lowering expectations, and that's what I'm doing right now as well. I'm lowering expectations. I do see a scenario where we're just fine, and we're on our way to accumulating the 12 million we'll need plus to finish out the project.
We could default on our state loans.
Ooh, that'd be great. Let's do that.
Yeah.
No, we won't.
So Lisa,
Be careful, Jeannie, that might be the one thing that's picked up from this meeting.
Yes.
Because they're 0%, why would we do that? Do you have any sense of where, when he talks about rocky landings and he talks about, if that might be a great increase, do you have a sense of where our rates for sewage treatment are today in relationship to other communities in the state?
We do. And what he said, we share with him. The concern he's expressed is one we share.
Mm-hmm.
But he also indicated that we may be okay.
And you share that as well?
Yes. One of the last rate increases will take effect this year.
Right.
We're not alarmed at this point. But if at the end of next year, we're not where we want to be, that's when we will have a discussion about this. At this point in time, we're not anticipating rate increases. There's one component that makes me comfortable, which is the impact fee we have adopted. That is bringing significant amount of money.
Okay.
And it will also take a role of paying back some of these loans, as well as the 12 million improvement plan we're thinking about in 5 years. But hopefully, some of that may be deferred if we get the grant we expect to get. So all of those will be known and they will be clear to us next year about this time.
Okay, but do we have bandwidth within the charges we have today to be still in the ballpark with other communities in the state?
Rate-wise,
Yes, rate-wise.
wastewater is not something you can compare from one community to another one, simply because it's a system that is highly regulated. Of course, solid waste is also,
Right.
depending on where you discharge, the age of your treatment plant, the community you service, a lot of things. So
Okay.
we are unique simply because we have new treatment plant, we have TMDL that forced us to do this. And the rate committee we've been working with, they have been really very understanding, with the exception of one that always objects. Other than that, I think they're very clear. They know what's going on, where we are, what we do. We meet on regular basis. We share information. And I think if we get to the point that we want to increase rates, I don't think we will have any problems with them.
Okay, well, I just wondered, I was just sort of being a little cautious in terms of where we were in the grand bandwidth.
And let me clarify as well, while I'm concerned, while I don't know exactly where we're gonna land, it's very, very close. So if it's on one side or the other of what is the optimal rate, we're very, very close. So it's not, don't expect a 40% increase, or we're talking plus or minus 2 or 3%.
I believe that might happen downstate when they're trying to build their plan.
And that was also in our initial plan, that in the event this doesn't pan out, we will have the option of one more rate increase.
Okay.
So that was one of the things we've shown in the rate study. So that's where we are.
Okay, thank you.
EC, you could have said it's a very fluid situation.
Yes.
Whoa. No, it ends up being a solid situation.
Now it's solid.
Yes.
Do we have any other questions?
All right, it's definitely, and those drinks are coming out.
Thank you for your presentations. Yes, thank you. We have any general questions for Rich? Is this your moment to shine?
Actually, we have Kirk, and then
well,
I'll address you as the RDA board.
Isn't that separate, or do we have to reconvene, or
No.
it's like, okay.
I can just address the RDA board, and they can tell the Logan City Council.
Thanks. We're 5 minutes early. Do we have general Q&A so that we can be on time?
That's a worse
It is
than the
getting
one
late.
that Tom and I did.
Okay, good to go? All right. Council, good evening, or RDA board, I should say. We're switching gears here a little bit. So let's get started. Okay, first of all, I just wanted to do a brief review, really to say thank you for your support for some of the projects that have been funded this past fiscal year. I think there was some really interesting projects, ones that were very valuable, I think, for the city, especially looking forward. This is one that involves both infrastructure and industrial space. It's the Blue Spring Business Park, so we're really in need of more industrial space, and this is a great project that helped deliver that, as well as a road extension, 800 West, a northern extension of that road. Land assembly is always one of the big obstacles of redevelopment, making things difficult. That's not a very good map, but it's what we used when we approached you for the 300 North acquisition. That we had multiple property owners, and through the acquisition that you helped fund, now that's been boiled down to just 2 landowners. So bringing us many steps closer to hopeful realization of a nice project there at some point, just opposite the new library on the corner. Housing's always a critical part of revitalizing a downtown, and so it's been great to see this year that we've got 2 housing projects that are launching. Mill Creek, of course, on First South, First West, and L59 at 150 South, 100 East.
Do we have any idea if they're actually gonna build that?
L59?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've been talking to the owner, and they've just been, I guess, gearing up, getting ready to do that. I mean, I don't have an exact date, but we finalized the development agreement maybe 2 months ago. So, I mean, and they've demoed the homes, of course, so that's been done.
But that was done a long time ago.
I know we always get anxious when something hasn't started. I was that way with In-N-Out Burger, but I see the construction fencing around that today. I mean, it's a valid question.
I'm not trying to minimize it.
No, I just didn't know.
I don't have.
As far as you know, it is ongoing.
Yes, I've been, it's been, a few weeks since I've talked with Skylar, who's one of the developers. But I have no reason to think that it's not going forward.
Okay. So that property transfer for the park hasn't happened yet then,
No,
correct?
it won't happen until they pull a building permit.
Right. Okay, and then lastly, just in summary, the Center Block Plaza, great project, a city infrastructure project, which will serve the downtown very, very well, helping animate things, driving more business development. And I bring this up also not just to provide a summary of some of the good things that have happened that you've helped to, realize through your appropriations, but also as a budgetary item. So the two amounts you see, one there's for the plaza and improvements, the 4.4 million. That includes the demolition of the existing buildings, the construction of the plaza, and then all the amenities, including the stage, the admin building, splash pad, ice rink, etc. That, and then the Plaza 45, the 1.6 million, which will be the improvements to the Plaza 45 building. Those don't show up in the current budget. What you'll see is a carry forward when we do those typically in August, and they'll be put into the 2022 budget at that point in time. So you don't
also anticipate recouping some of that money when Plaza 45 and 41 are sold. So.
Correct.
Maybe all. Maybe we'll get lucky, it'll be all.
There you go. Okay, before I move in.
Do we make money when we bring all the construction refuse out to the do we get to pay ourselves for that too, like we pay for the power?
Problem is environmental. Environmental is an enterprise fund that serves the whole county, and there's the Solid Waste Advisory Board, so we are extraordinarily cautious. Occasionally, if there is a project that seems to have widespread public benefit, not just to Logan City, we will waive fees, but we try not to do that.
Yeah, we don't waive fees.
You say the more we demolish, the better.
Then we'll make more money, right?
Build up sooner.
Okay, before we move into some of the particulars with the current budget, I think it's always helpful just to kind of give that broad view of what project areas we have, what they mean, etc. So here's a map of the active or current RDA project areas throughout the city. In orange, at the top right is the Auto Mall project area. To the left of that is the Northwest RDA, which is at 1700 North, 1000 West, a business park there. In purple in the center, we have the downtown RDA. And then right below that, we've got the larger red area is the South Main RDA, and just above it, the newly created, or rather newly created, South Main River project area. This just shows you, when I say active areas, let me just clarify, that means we are receiving revenue, tax increment or property tax revenue that's being generated within those geographies. That receipt of revenues terminates at some point, and so here you see each of those project areas with the year that those sunset. So all but one of these is rapidly approaching its expiration. Yeah.
I didn't know we made them all at the same time.
Those four, well,
Did
I'd
you
have
say
to.
one had a different term than?
Some of them have different terms, and then we've amended the South Main RDA, we've amended the downtown RDA one time. So that plays into the timing genie too.
Wow. It's a lot to expire all at once.
Yes. The South Main obviously has several years to go. Then flipping the page a little bit, we do have project areas for which, the revenue stream that spigot has turned off. In some of these, we still have fund balances that we can deploy, and we are deploying in various ways. So this map shows the green one kind of in the center left. That's the 600 West EDA close to Shrivers and the Blue Spring Business Park that we showed earlier. At the top in red, pretty much, it's the Quell Meadows project area. That's inactive.
Why is it inactive?
Well, inactive in that we don't have revenue coming in. So maybe that's a misnomer of sorts, but that, I mean, that's what I've called them.
It's not inactive old, it's inactive not funded yet.
It's been funded, well, the Quail Meadows was a single purpose project area. And really it was a vehicle for the city to incentivize the development of a single family home subdivision in the northwest part of Logan. So we funded, some dollars that contributed to the road infrastructure, utility infrastructure, that kind of thing. But we have no more obligation beyond that, nor are we receiving any revenue. So it's more of a conduit to help that project. But to be able to do that, we had to create a project area.
So we could not have, that's another question. I'll ask you that question another time.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, the other ones are Logan North Retail in and around the mall and Cache Valley Marketplace. That's the one shown in orange. And then the last one is out by Thermo Fisher Scientific and Cytiva, the blue at the bottom, the Logan River RDA. So again, some of those have fund balances, some don't, and those fund balances are being deployed. Okay, and I wanted to point out the various ways that the RDA receives revenue. The primary one, I've already talked about that, is property tax revenue, both on real property and personal property that is generated on new growth or new development within those specific geographies we looked at. Also, if within those project areas valuations increase, that also generates tax increment that the RDA collects. The other two ways that we receive revenue, and these are very insignificant compared to the first one, but rents, there are some rents that we receive, and also some interest that is earned on existing fund balances. So there's the total budget, $3,230,000 for fiscal 2022. Just a couple other things I thought it would be helpful to review or point out again. Within your budget copy, you'll see expense accounts organized by project area, all those that you just saw. There is one silo or one category that's called administrative, and that basically are for those expense items which are general or across all project areas. So that's how, from a budgetary point of view, we look at those. At the end of the budget, there's also a line item called administration or administrative, where we've got $50,000 in the budget, which basically covers, all of staff's time. You might have legal participating in RDAs.
Contributes toward. Doesn't come anywhere near covers. Sorry. We've decreased that over time, by the way, as well as we anticipate these closing.
I could have said that, but I left that to our finance director, right? All right. Okay, and then, I just wanted to point out that second bullet item, affordable housing. We have two project areas, the downtown and the new South Main River project area that generate a housing set aside. So by statute, we're required to set aside so much in that fund, which is used for housing projects throughout the city. And I'm not going to go through all the line items certainly, but some of the more significant budgeted expenditures that you'll find in your packet are development agreement obligations, affordable housing programs, which I'll talk about in a second, the facade grant program, and the administrative fees I touched on already. So in terms of the housing programs, there's two I wanted to just touch on real quick. The first one is the Welcome Home Own in Logan. We have money in the current budget for that, which is a down payment closing cost assistance program for homes in Logan City, and to date over 200 families have been recipients of that grant. The other one is the Northern Utah Neighborhood Improvement Program, which is a program administered by Neighborhood Housing Solutions. Some of you that have been involved with city government for a while will remember that we participated in this program in 2013 and again in 2015. Now, having introduced it that way, let me just say in the budget we have $50,000, and our intent was to use that for community development's home rehabilitation program, which is really used to, remedy, if someone can apply for it, and if they have with their home a life-threatening situation or a major functionality issue, they could apply for assistance, and we would help them through community development's program. However, with all of the parallels between what Neighborhood Housing Solutions does with this program and what Mike Desimone and his team do with the other program, there's greater efficiencies with having Neighborhood Housing Solutions do it. There's a broader reach. And when our Economic Development Committee met and discussed this and spoke with Neighborhood Housing Solutions, it was the committee's recommendation that we basically substitute this program operated by Neighborhood Housing Solutions, or substitute Mike's program for this one.
It is for low moderate income, qualified persons only.
So this will impact, last time in 2015 and 2013, I think they impacted like a dozen homes within Logan City. So it was a program that the committee felt very good about, and where we already had dollars in the proposed budget. We're really just talking about a switch in who's administering that. So I just wanted to point that out so you were aware of that and can comment on it or ask questions.
And Mike is fine with having that be managed by.
He is, yeah. Just briefly, in closing, the financial status as of the end of April, RDA has a fund balance of $11.8 million, of which about $1.6 million is earmarked for affordable housing. And of that $1.6 million, there's $1 million of that which has already been appropriated by you, the board, for some active projects, but they just haven't met the terms of the development agreement quite yet. And there's a portion that's in the current budget. So in totality of that 1.6 million, about $1 million's been earmarked already. So with that, any questions you might have? Yeah,
probably worth mentioning as well, of that 11 point whatever million, we have, most of it is committed. So it's wonderful we've got it, but it's committed, ready to go, and the rest is probably contingency for those same projects. So it's wonderful to have that money, but it's pretty much gone.
The council has appropriated for center block or.
Yeah, one footnote to that would be that Plaza 45, with that RFP going out in the next several months, while we're looking at it very conservatively, which we should, and Rich pretty much hit that on the nail, but once that sells, that will generate some funds which will benefit the agency and some other projects.
We've talked a lot about affordable housing. What units have been built or are being built that are affordable housing?
Anywhere in Logan or in the valley or?
In our city.
Trying to think.
Wasatch is doing.
Yes, thank you.
One of their buildings down on 6 West and 200 North is actually affordable housing, and they're getting tax credits, and it has, it's very specific.
Yep.
Tony Johnson's Gordon Walk project has affordable housing.
Does it have a component to it?
Gordon Walk project.
Okay.
It had a component that was federally funded.
There's just such a huge need for it, and I'm not sure we've been as active as we should. I mean, it's mentioned a lot of times by citizens, we need affordable housing, so.
Yeah,
and there's a difference between workforce housing and actual low-income housing, which is challenging.
I mean, we don't have a lot of money, so it's not like, we could just empty the coffers and see a lot of units created. What we can do is stimulate or help, some private efforts to do that. And over the years, I mean, there's been a number of programs. Well, not a number, but trying to think I forget the name of the program, but we've offered subsidies through the RDA Affordable Housing Fund to benefit some of those.
I've often felt like housing in our neighborhood is much less expensive than the market throughout the valley. Excuse me for my throat, that's the way it is. And so I felt like we probably provide a lot of affordable housing just in the fact that our neighborhoods.
Our housing stock.
Yeah, good point. Our housing stock is much less expensive.
That's a good point. I mean, a case in point is the Welcome Home Own and Logan program. We just mentioned that, 200 of those have been funded over the past several years. It goes back to the housing stock. The only reason that program was functional for 200 families was that our housing stock was affordable, where someone on 80% or less of average median income could afford those, so.
Thank you.
Is that program ongoing, or is there
The Welcome Home?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. And we've got money in this current budget for that.
So there is no end date approaching on that program yet?
Not foreseen, no.
Well, if people move out, there are requirements for them to live in the house, and if they move out before those requirements are fulfilled, they have to pay back the money to the account, so it does have a little bit of rotation in that regard. But
with the housing market going up as it is, does that make it more challenging for someone to qualify for?
Definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, it all depends on income, staying attached to the housing costs. So if housing costs are going up, the only way someone can qualify is to have their income go up. So you're right, it does. And I haven't analyzed it or anything, but the available inventory for that program is probably doing this a little bit right now with the housing market the way it is, certainly.
Yeah, there's still like 50 homes available in Cache County.
Yeah, in the whole valley.
In the whole valley, so yeah.
And they stay in
And what's the price point?
the market 5 or 6 days.
The average home price has skyrocketed over the last year in Cache County.
I mean, the other dynamic is with this generation, I mean, if you read different reports and things, maybe there's less of an appetite to have the home, the same type of situation. Maybe people are a little more mobile, the younger generation, like apartment dwellings. So I think the fact that we're providing, or not we're, but the developers are building more apartments, I think those things help solve. They're a contribution to that total problem. Obviously not a panacea, but they help.
The really interesting thing was I listened to one of the big tent meetings in Salt Lake, and they did a survey of high school students and asked what they would like to do. And by far, like 85% of them wanted to have a house in a neighborhood. They didn't want to live in an apartment. They didn't want to live in an apartment. They wanted a house in a neighborhood.
This is anecdotal, but I drive through the city quite a bit, like you all do. I've seen a good number of homes that are being rehabbed, fixed up to a good point. And I'm surprised because a lot of the neighborhoods are stressed, I'll just say. But I'm seeing people put some money into homes in all kinds of neighborhoods. And I think partly that's because the cost of a new home, a property out in the country someplace, is extremely expensive. And so the market has caused, we've been trying to figure out how do we help our neighborhoods. The market has forced people to say, let's look at a city. Now, I think to the credit of the mayor and previous, we have built some infrastructure in our city. Now the library, Center Street, some other good things. I think a lot of people want to be close to that and not 10 miles away. That's just my feeling.
It would be nice if we could do some more, not just affordable housing, but low-income housing, because I think that's the real need, is what we're hearing. So when you say affordable housing is, 80% of the
Up to 80%.
Up to 80%, that for many people, that still isn't affordable if they're on those low income levels, so.
challenge.
Yes, it is.
Amen.
Thank you.
Summary?
Welcome.
Keep this
Mr.
very
Anderson.
short.
No, we're not done yet.
Oh, what
The-
is
Not done yet.
Rich is going to summarize.
The way forward. So June 1st, we'll have a workshop item on elected officials' wages and member contributions to the state retirement system. Those are both required. But we'll just do those workshops. And then on June 15th, it's anticipated that we would adopt the budget. We would adopt the elected officials' wages. We'd adopt the contributions to URS. We would also have a public hearing on transfers, which is required. We would then adopt the general, or the city budget and the RDA budget is the anticipation. And it is the anticipation we would do so without a property tax increase, which is good. And that would conclude it. So our anticipation is adoption on June 15th. There are a few minor changes I have to make. I'll check with the state, see if they're still requiring me to change our budget to the actual number the state and county gives us for property tax. In the past, they've made us do that, but I've heard that I don't have to do that anymore, which would be really nice. In which case, I would make no changes to the budget, otherwise just minor adjustments to comply with state requirements. And the anticipation is, unless I hear otherwise, that I'll bring back what we've got here with those minor adjustments.
Any other questions for Rich?
Grab his water like his
Are
life depended
we all
on it.
done then? We're all done?
Good.
Our meeting is adjourned.
Good.
Thank you all.
Good work.
I told my wife it would be another thing.